Hello my friends, I'm Larsen and I'm the IRC Tire Guy. Today we are continuing our viewer submission videos. These have been a lot of fun and this stuff seems to really resonate with you guys. You guys can see the mistakes that the average rider makes and we can break it down and hopefully help you guys continue your progression. Make sure to send in your videos to RichLarsen511 on Facebook and Instagram. Let's jump right into it with a submission from Duracell 3. This is a log splatter and a double blip. Let's go. All right, just right off the bat, that's a lot of power for a splatter. That's a small splatter. This is a perfect obstacle to be practicing on. I would say, I like the fact that you're holding the throttle on significantly before loading that engine, releasing that clutch right off of the kicker. The body position looks good. It is a lot of power for that. Let's watch it one more time. But that was really good, honestly. We got one more here, another splatter. Oh, dude. That was solid. Let's watch that one again. I mean, as I said, right? It's a lot of power. Yeah, dude. So you got the full release on the clutch on that one. The amount of power that you're putting down, obviously, you don't need that much. I would say, sounds like you're holding it about half throttle as you enter. Clutch is in, half throttle. You've got that load of power. Usually what I'm doing is as soon as my front tire actually hits the kicker that I'm using to splatter off of, I pull the clutch back in and then release. That back in kind of creates that reload of power because if you're slipping to initiate movement, that RPM is going to drop. I reload and then release that clutch off the face of the kicker. You did all that correctly. You got a big release, a little too much power. Obviously that snapped you up over the top and gave you the loop out. Honestly, your body position looks great. I like what you're doing. In this situation, what I would practice is more of a tire tap. Because that log's not that big, and this is something I've mentioned in the splatter breakdowns we've done, a kicker just like that, practicing just making sure you have a good understanding of how much power you need to get the front tire to loft, completely miss the obstacle, and kind of splatter into the backside, or the rear tire to kind of go directly into the obstacle. In this situation, it would really just be like a quick burst. The bigger the obstacle is, that's where you're gonna start to use more power. So if you can find something that's tall, that you set up a kicker, same approach here, but it would be a little safer if you have something that's significantly higher. I love your approach here, as I said, but tone down those RPMs. The RPMs are gonna get you every time. Looking at the body position, let's talk about the first one. Good position. I would say try to come in as soon as the rear tire hits the obstacle. Try to be in more of a straight knee position there. The straighter you are, the more forward you are, the more distance you can drive back and slow that front tire drop. You can see your front tire dropped pretty quickly and it kind of pulled you forward. The reason it dropped quickly is you weren't far enough forward as the rear tire hits. Straightening out your knees creates more space and allows you to drive back. The second one, obviously we overcooked it. If you notice the difference, not only did you release the clutch harder, but also you really held your weight back like you're going for a giant splatter. So look at where your head is as soon as the rear tire hits the obstacle compared to the first one, your head is significantly further forward. So the further forward you are, the more you can counter that weight by driving those hips back. So that's always something to keep in your mind. Straighten the knees, keep the head forward as the rear tire splatters into the obstacle. Less power or bigger obstacle would be the best approach, but great entry, man. Appreciate it. Oh, and he's got a couple more here, a couple double blips. Let's talk about them. Yeah, okay. Watch all three here. I see. Those are great. So your separation of throttle and clutch is good. I like how you're focusing on trying to hold good traction over the top. The first one you spun, the second one you spun a little bit, the third one was the best. Here's the biggest thing that I'm gonna say. I'm noticing here, as your front tire drives into the obstacle, you're not allowing that weight to get forward. And once again, just like with the splatter, the further forward you get, the more you can drive your weight back and allow that bike to come out from under you up the obstacle. You can see when I'm doing a double blip, I have a lot of back and forth movement. Watching your approach on all three of those, you snap your knees back correctly, getting the front tire up perfectly. I think the distance in which you're lifting the front, the placement of the front tire, it's all good. But as soon as the front tire hits, you kind of stay stationary. And staying stationary makes it so you actually are going to have a harder time holding traction. So you've got good throttle and clutch control, and you were able to hold traction on the third one. But the first one, the one where you spun the most, you didn't move forward as the front tire drives into the obstacle, hindering the machine's motion and allowing you to move forward. You didn't move forward enough to then allow the bike to come out from under you. The more you move back and forth, the easier it's going to be for you to hold traction. Not only because the weight distribution, but also when your body is completely forward, this allows that bike to deliver the power on the ground before the obstacle, come out from under you, up the obstacle, and allows you to chop the throttle completely to hold significantly better traction over the top. So the more movement you can initiate back and forth, the easier it's going to be for you to hold traction in those situations. Your double blip's great. I love how you're separating the blips. The sound is good. I love where you're lifting the front tire. Just practice moving back and forth more on that one. Good entries, man. Really good. Practice those splatters. Practice those double blips. I love seeing it. Thank you for sending them in. Let's move forward. We've got a entry from Nicholas O'Brien. This is a Beta 390. Let's go. Oh, dude, let's okay. This is perfect. Honestly, this is such a common mistake that I see. I love the fact that you're focusing on straight knees. I'm assuming you've watched the videos we spoke about this. When you're hitting a log or a telephone pole size log where you're just driving the front into it, I like to see a straight knee position. Straight knee position allows for more space for you to then counter the outside forces, whether that's the throttle, the delivery of power, or the actual obstacle itself. You went into a straight knee position. So let's look here. You enter, big release of throttle and clutch. We'll talk about that. As soon as the rear tire is up against the obstacle, I see a straight knee position. I see the correct hips, the correct body position, minus one thing. Notice where your head is. Your head is behind the bars in this situation. And something that will change your approach significantly is getting your head forward. You should, honestly, your head should be 6 inches to a foot further forward in front of the bars. The reason that is, and we're going to put it in slow-mo here so you guys see, this technically means you're kind of in the middle of the bike. So in slow motion here, as soon as the rear tire hits the obstacle, we get suspension compression. With suspension compression, there is always rebound, no matter where you are on the machine. So something I always say is it's counterintuitive, but to not get kicked forward, you need to be further forward. So you have the ability to counter back. Because you're in the center of the bike, as soon as you get that compression, there's a rebound. The rebound comes up into your body. Look at that. Your butt is all the way back, completely over the rear fender. You've dropped completely down. Great body position, but you've maximized. You are all the way as far back as you can go. Unfortunately, there's still rebound to be had. So that rebound gets transferred into your body and kicks you forward and off of the pegs. Look at your feet are 4 inches off of the peg, and then you drop back down on the bike. The reason you got kicked up into the air and forward is because you were not far enough forward. So in this situation, I want you to see, once again, look at where your head is. As soon as the rear tire hits the obstacle, your head is essentially even with the bars. Compared to myself, my head is completely forward. So you need to think of it more like your bars should be coming towards your chest. Getting the head completely forward gives you more space to counter back and to prevent getting kicked off of the bike. That's a perfect example. We got a few more here, I believe. That was better. And in fact, look at the second one. So that clip, same approach. We've got a single log here. We're just driving the front into it. I'm gonna put it right when the rear tire hits. Look at how much further forward his head is. His head is actually above the bars. The bars are closer to his chest here. And look at how much more smooth that approach was. One more time. Perfect. Way better, right? Third one. Better. We're still, I mean, again, I would get my head even further forward. Here's the fourth one. Not bad. Holding good traction. That one, you can see, his head was a little bit further behind compared to the other ones. And look at what happened. He couldn't hold traction over the top of it, had to gas to get up over it. So that should be eye-opening to everyone. The further your head is forward, the smoother it's going to be. And comparing all four of those, the best ones were the ones where your head is further forward. Now, one other thing I'm going to say, going back to the first one, is that was a heavy release of throttle and clutch. The more throttle and clutch you give it off the face of one of these logs, the more dialed in you need to be with your movement because it's happening quickly. You know, you've got 6 inches to make that, or, you know, this log is a 10-inch, 12-inch log. You've got 12 inches to make that move back and forth as the front tire drives up the obstacle. So dialing it in a little slower, maybe backing down on the RPM might help prevent that kick just a little bit. One more from him, it's a little unstuck technique. Yeah. So, and that one's similar to, see, the beauty of this is everything's related. This is why I love this sport, is because every technique ties to the next technique. So being able to get your head forward while singling a log also will dictate your ability to get your head forward when you're doing the unstuck technique. And as you can see here, you got your head halfway forward, not quite as far as I would. And that makes it so you've only gone so far forward and you can only come so far back. You have to chop the throttle. And that makes it so you spin on top of the obstacle. Driving your way all the way forward first, then releasing the clutch could be a big one. Also, getting your head further forward will allow you more distance to allow that bike to come out from under you up the obstacle. Head forward, head forward, head forward. It's something I talk about so much. Learning how to get that head forward. You watch the best guys. Doesn't matter if it's in motocross, hard enduro, endurocross, whatever it is, enduro GP. All of those guys ride with their head directly above the bars the majority of the time. When they're accelerating, they're even further in front of the bars. Learning how to get the head forward allows you to initiate movement in front of the outside force, whether that's an obstacle or the acceleration and deceleration forces of the machine. You have to learn how to be in front of those forces, and getting your head above the bars and forward makes a huge difference. Great entries, man. I love it. Those were perfect. Let's see. Next up, we've got Logan Power. This is also some double blips on a gas gas. Let's go. Okay, entering. Good balance. I like to see balance like that. Such a great way to practice. Nice, 2 distinct blips there. I like it. Very similar on the second one. Something I'm going to say, I mean, dude, your 2 blips are great. Your body position's good. I love how you're driving that weight forward after the front tire hits the obstacle. Something I would say is maybe lift your front tire a little bit earlier. And the reason I'm saying that is that will allow your front tire to almost drop onto the obstacle. In this situation, your delivery of that clutch up, the initial first blip to get the front tire into the obstacle, your initiation of that is a little bit late, and it seems like your front tire is almost still on its way up, or at least leveling out as it hits the top of the obstacle. And you're placing it right on top. That's another thing I would say, is make sure you could also drive it into that obstacle. But that being said, if you're doing it this way and you're kind of placing that front tire on top, which there's a time and a place where I'll do that, I would lift it a little bit earlier. That way it's dropping instead of rising. Does that make sense? So let's watch those one more time. And like I said, great balance. I love seeing that. But you're a little close, and I would say, yeah, lift it a little earlier. See how his front tire kind of coasts up onto the top and then goes up the rest of the way, instead of getting a little bit more suspension compression. And you can see here, in the suspension compression, you pretty much get 0. And suspension compression allows you not only for the hindrance and motion to get your weight forward, but it also allows for a rebound that always happens, and that rebound can really help you as you approach obstacles like this. So both of those, we got minimal suspension compression. The second one was better. But I would say just, you know, really focus on placing that front tire a little different. If you're going to lift it that late, I wouldn't lift it as high. I would drive it into, you know, that 3/4 mark or just above 3/4, right on the edge essentially of the obstacle. If you lift your front tire earlier, I would say you can place it on top of the obstacle like you're doing, and it will allow for more suspension compression because the front tire is dropping on top. Something else you can practice if you really want to take it to the next level to really initiate more suspension compression, front suspension compression, is practice dragging a little front brake. So as soon as that front tire hits, you drag a little bit of front brake simultaneous with the second blip. So you have to pull the front brake in and roll on the throttle at the same time. Very challenging. A lot of coordination when it comes to technical riding. But that's a good thing to practice. I use that a lot. And a lot of times you can even see my front tire locks up before the front tire even hits because I'm dragging that front brake to get more suspension compression, therefore more rebound, more pop up and over the obstacle. Good entries. I like seeing the double blip approach. Yeah, man, really solid. Your body position's great. Work on different lifts. Lift earlier, lift later, place it in different spots. I think that's going to be a big piece for your approach. Let's move forward. We've got an entry from, this is Octi09, Instagram handle. This is hill climb on a free ride. Here we go. Don't see too many free rides anymore. A little 2-stroke free ride. Here we go. Downhill action, a lot of momentum. Whoa, little toss action. Let's watch that one more time. Okay. You know, we're going off of one clip here. Your entry was good. Honestly, you're getting your head forward. Body position looks decent. The thing that I saw happen here is you got a little bit of a buck. Right off the bat, it kicks you to the left, then it kicks you to the right, and that kind of kicks you out of balance. And then you have this little second uphill. I'm watching for two things. One, I'm watching for power. So we want to hear before that steep section, just before you toss the bike, we want to hear a pretty significant load of power to help you propel up and over that obstacle. So I would say load the engine just before the climb, roll off a little bit, and then just before that step, we want to get that power back up, reduce and release using the flywheel harnessed inertia within the engine to pull you up and over. You're very steady all the way through. And it's actually kind of interesting. You enter with higher RPM and then you kind of stay steady the rest of the way. Listen. Almost as if you loaded the engine correctly, you gave it a good amount of power before, but then as you got to that point where you started to get a little bit of a swap, you pretty much just chopped and coasted. And here's the thing about chopping the throttle. When you chop the throttle, that opens my eyes to balance. Balance is key. So the kick from left to right kicked you out of balance. At that same time, you're rolling off of the throttle when you should have loaded the throttle. You're rolling off of the throttle, you're coasting. It's slowing down because it's uphill. When you slow down and you're out of balance, whatever direction you're out of balance in, you're going to fall even deeper into an out of balance state. So just on flat ground, if I'm riding and I get a kick, or if I'm going to correct my balance even in a cone weave, this is a perfect example. If I'm falling to the left, I turn the bars to the left and I input throttle and clutch to regain my unbalanced force. If I'm falling to the left, I turn to the left, I slip and input throttle and clutch to regain. If I fall to the right, I turn to the right and slip the throttle and clutch to regain balance. And that may sound kind of simple, but really that's what you're doing all the time on a motorcycle. You're correcting your balance from left to right with inputs of throttle and clutch, as well as body position. In this situation, you got a little bit of a kick, it kicked you out of balance, you're rolling off of the throttle. Because you're rolling off the throttle, it pushes you out of balance even more. You have to toss the bike, get up onto the power harder just before that obstacle, and practice your balance. That's going to be the two things. I mean, the better balanced you are, the easier it is to handle situations like these. The more honed in that balance is, that could come from cone weaves, that can come from very basic drills. The more honed in it is, the easier it's going to be for you to make those corrections as needed in these technical situations. Good entry, man. You know, learn how to get that power up. Load that engine. It's such a key piece for obstacle approach. And as I said, you loaded it coming in, but you almost coasted the rest of the way, chopping that throttle. That second little steep ledge there, you should be loading the engine and putting the power down before that obstacle. Good entry, man. Let's move forward. We've got Chris Keinberg. This is a Yamaha hill climb. Here we go. Oh, this is like a big rock slab. Oh, this is a gnarly one, dude. That looks like Arizona, possibly, or maybe Vegas or something. Dude, honestly, that looks like a gnarly climb. Looks slick. Obviously, you can see a lot of movement with that rear tire. I don't know what your setup is. You know, in those kind of situations, I like to have it soft as soft can be. But, you know, I'm not sure what you're running on the rear there, but I like a nice soft setup. On the top, you really lost a lot of traction. Let's watch it one more time. So this is, what is this, a WR 450? Sounds like a 450. Thing's throaty. So he's coming in here. Decent load. Little second step there. Okay, so it looks really sandy. I love the fact that you loaded on that second step. So where everything started to go bad, I think you had good momentum coming in. I mean, maybe you could have loaded the engine a little bit more before that, but I mean, I like what you did. You came into that flat spot, you're looking to put the power down. This honestly goes back to the previous video. You want to put the power down before the obstacle. You've got this little flat spot in a hill, pull that clutch in, load that engine, build those RPMs, release the clutch, reduce the throttle, transition to minimum. I've said this 1,000 times and I'll keep saying it. The best riders in the world have the highest ability to transition from maximum output to minimum output after they've established momentum. So you establish that momentum with the maximum amount of power needed. But after you establish it, you have to roll off of that throttle and keep it minimum to maintain traction and maintain that momentum that you've established. So I love that. You've built the power, you did it, but listen to the bike as you start to lose traction. So we're going to start it right before that little flat spot where you load for the last cliff. Again, this looks gnarly, man. Do you hear how the bike is, it sounds like you're inputting throttle on the obstacle, which is the steep section, and it almost sounds like you're pulling in the clutch a little bit. So here's a tip for establishing momentum with maximum power. It seems like you got that part dialed, and then transitioning to minimum to hold traction and hold momentum the rest of the way up. The little tip is try to get off of the clutch. So every time you engage, disengage the clutch back and forth, you run the risk of spinning the tire on the out of the clutch. Every time you slip that clutch out, you're increasing the likelihood of breaking traction. This looks like dry slick, right? It's pretty sandy. Looks like it's a technical slick section. In this situation, getting off of the clutch after you've loaded that engine and really reducing the throttle, getting it down into the bottom end of the RPM is going to help you hold better traction the rest of the way up. Truly, your body position looked good. You got your head forward. I mean, we lost a little bit of balance, but I would say the biggest failure here is the reduction, getting that power into the bottom to hold traction the rest of the way up. You guys can hear when I practice loading the flywheel techniques, I'm putting maximum input of, or I'm putting maximum output of power before the obstacle. But when I actually come in contact with the obstacle, I'm reducing so much that I hold traction. And learning how to find that quick transition to minimum power is such a key piece for your approach in technical situations to hold traction. And the best way to do that is try to almost get the clutch out, ride the end of the friction zone if you're going to do it. Sounds like you were kind of continually almost trying to maintain your balance with a little bit of clutch control, which is necessary here. But as I said, the more you can almost get off of the clutch in that situation, the easier it's going to be for you to finish that climb out. That looks like a gnarly climb, dude. Looks pretty scary, looks pretty high risk. You did good. I love where you loaded the power. You know, sounds like that bike's got plenty of power. The biggest part was just the failure in holding traction the rest of the way up. A little bit of balance issue there, you know. I mean, the better you get at balance, the easier those situations are going to be. But I mean, honestly, man, you did good. You did good. I'm glad the bike didn't come back down on you. Like I said, that's a gnarly climb. I'd like to try that one. Alrighty. Moving forward, we have Gray Rides Enduro. This is a little water section or something. Here we go. Whoa! Dude, that's a steep... Oh, no! Oh, dude, you got bit. That was gnarly, huh? Freaking bike came back and bit you. All right, let's watch the second one. Oh, same thing 2 times. Falling off the back. Yeah, dude. Those are gnarly sections, man. Good rider. This looks like a lot of fun. This is some proper hard enduro. Dude, the biggest thing about this, I'm telling you right now, is the timing with throttle and clutch in relation to your movement. Even watching the first one, I'm going to put it in slow-mo here, and I'm just going to clip through this. You initiate movement simultaneous with the standing through the pegs and driving forward. Now, obviously, this is a slick riverbed, so you can't completely drive your weight forward because you'll lose traction, but I would initiate standing onto the pegs, driving the weight first before I actually release that clutch. And the reason that is you got to think, you've got steepness, gravity pulling you back down the hill. You also have the release of clutch with the loaded engine. That release of clutch puts you back into the back of the bike. So that's why you looped out. It's because driving your weight simultaneous with the release, it takes muscle energy to get in front of that force. Even though you were able to overcome the disadvantage of gravity as well as the release of the clutch, still able to overcome that and get forward on the machine, you actually were forward too late and the bike is already starting to wheelie, so you have to either toss it or chop the throttle. You tossed it, and then it came back and bit you. If you can get your weight forward earlier, it allows you to let the bike come out from under you and then hopefully hold traction the remainder of the way. This also looks gnarly. This looks like a pretty steep step. I mean, if it looks steep on video, I can guarantee it's steep in real life. I bet you feel like you're at such a disadvantage starting in that riverbed. Driving your weight significantly harder earlier and later with your clutch, the release of the clutch, is gonna make a huge difference. I'm watching here. Both times you are inputting throttle, clutch at the same time and driving your weight. So not only does that take more energy, it's very hard to overcome the disadvantages that you're at via gravity and the combustion of the engine that wants to put you back down into the seat. It did put you back down in the seat and you have to toss it up and over. The earlier you can get your weight forward, the better off you're gonna be. That being said, it isn't a riverbed. So there's a point where you almost have to only go halfway and hold your weight there as long as you can, then let the bike come out from under you as you reduce the throttle. You kind of stayed on the throttle as the bike comes out from under you, and it's just gonna keep wheeling. So you have to learn how to let the bike come out from under you as well as reducing and completely releasing the clutch to hopefully chop the power down into the bottom to hold traction on the top and get you up and over. That's another one that looks fun. I would like to ride this area wherever it is. Looks pretty sick, man. Good entries. A great way to practice this. We all know the unstuck technique. Go find an obstacle that you can't overcome the disadvantage. I always say my limit is about 36 inches. So I know at 36 inches high, it's very hard for me to get my weight far enough forward to overcome that disadvantage. Go out and find obstacles and practice overcoming the disadvantage of height of the obstacle, right? How hard you have to work to get your body forward. That will directly translate to hard enduro situations. I use the unstuck technique so much. The other thing is that transition to minimum. If you can transition to the minimum throttle, you could at least hold the bike in that situation and push it up over the top if it's not possible to get it clean. Better than tossing it, but that being said, man, killer killer entries. I hope everybody's enjoying this stuff, man. This is great. You know, we get entries that I think the average rider can really relate to. And then you can kind of see the differences between the way I would approach it, because I have a plethora of footage, and I hope this stuff really resonates with you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. We hit 100K, man, and it's an incredible experience. I can't believe we have such an amazing community. Thank you guys so much. Keep them coming at Rich Larsen 511, Instagram and Facebook. Send them over. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at IRC Moto. Thank you so much for the support. We're going to keep at it, and until next time.